To be a successful artist in 2021, versatility is key. If you do one thing extremely well, it would be very hard to make it in today's day and age because of how quickly people's Dory-type memories will forget about you. Great rapper with bars to prove it? Old news. Great singer with the chords to dominate every single singing competition ever? We love singing behind in the 2000s, buddy. So out of all the artists that are popping right now, a lot of them are very versatile. One of those artists has been able to not only help pioneer a genre, but also successfully carry his sound to completely different genres. In this video, I'm going to take a deep dive into Trippie Redd's music from his first full mixtape to his most recent release where he teamed up with Travis Barker. To begin understanding Trippie, we have to go back to his early days. Michael Lamar White IV was born on June 18th, 1999 in Canton, Ohio. His older brother was making music under the name Trippie Redd. He was making music first, which was part of the reason Michael got into the music scene in the first place. Unfortunately, his brother passed away in a car accident in 2014, which left Michael to carry the torch forward. Trippie was a nickname his friends gave him, and he combined that with the second half of his brother's rap name to create his name, Trippie Redd. 1400 was essentially the gang that Trippie repped as a teenager. The 1400 block was where he was from, and throughout the years, he's turned it into his own brand. He was a pretty typical trap artist trying to make it on SoundCloud, and if you were to hear it today, you wouldn't even know it was Trippie Redd. He struggled to make a name for himself by making music similar to plenty of other SoundCloud rappers. You see, Trippie was trying to ride the wave of what was working in the rap game at the time, follow the trend of what's hot in the here and now, and try to capitalize on that window of time. But the artists that are able to stick around for a while and become memorable are the ones who can carve out their own space instead of trying to cram into the space everyone else is already in. After a year or two of trying to fit in, we began to see Trippie let more of himself out in 2016. Instead of just rapping about girls and flexing with his voice heavily auto-tuned, he started making music about some of the stuff that was actually on his mind, the stuff he was actually going through or had gone through. And instead of just auto-tuning his voice to literally sound like everyone else, he let his natural voice grab your attention instead. He released a song that would create his own lane on November 24th, 2016. Love Scars.
You used to say you in love. I used to say that shit back, thinking that shit from the heart. Now look where the fuck are we at? You used to say you in love. I used to say that shit back, thinking that shit from the heart.
It was part of his fourth EP, which was called The White Room Project. The music video currently has well over 100 million views here on YouTube. Love Scars quickly became the song a lot of people identified Trippie Redd with. And it also started what would become a huge fan base because of the great amount of transparency that the song contained. Yes, he was being compared heavily to Lil Uzi Vert, but Trippie was quickly creating his own space. He, along with several other artists, were shaping what would become emo rap. On May 26, 2017, he released his first full mixtape, A Love Letter to You. The mixtape introduced many people to Trippie's unique sound, and for most, it was an instant line in the sand of love it or hate it. This was around the time that I first heard of him. I saw him on the Poles music video with 6ix9ine, and I was definitely in that hate it camp. Between his voice and the weird, aggressive SoundCloud rap vibe, it was not my thing. It took a bit of time for his voice to grow on me, and hear him make other music that wasn't so aggressive to see how talented of an artist he actually was. Going back to that music video, Trippie has always had these, well, trippy music videos, with a bunch of effects added in post. He said in an interview that Kiss's Psycho Circus is what inspired him to want to make the crazy type of music videos that he's been making for almost his entire career. And this is where we can see where Trippie Redd's hybrid comes from. Trippie does have a thing for rock music. He's mentioned it plenty of times before, and obviously with his latest release, you can hear it there. He uses Kiss for direct inspiration on his music videos, and you can clearly see it in the way he dresses as well. But then on the other hand, you can hear the Lil Wayne influences as well. The two do have a pretty similar voice, and a similar way in which they carry themselves. I am not going to tell you that Trippie is on the same level as either one of those two artists, but I am saying that he is the clear byproduct of two very different artists. Behind the scenes, Trippie was spending a lot of time with the late XXXTentacion around this time. They were living together and making music together. And in August of 2017, X released the hit single that the two had created together, Fuck Love. Originally, X didn't like the beat, but after hearing what Trippie was able to do with it, it was a must-have. The song would be on X's upcoming album 17, and Trippie would be the only artist featured on the entire album. This was the song that started to change my mind on Trippie. I didn't dislike him anymore, I thought he was alright. On October 6th, Trippie dropped a Love Letter to You 2, which I personally put at the bottom of the Love Letter totem pole. To me, a lot of the songs blended together and most of it sounded the same, but hey, that's just me. But even with this album, it showed that Trippie was in it for the long haul. His sound wasn't going anywhere. A lot of people assume that the Love Letter series is all centered around various relationships that Trippie has had, and the albums are basically his commentary on those relationships now that they're over. Which, that's clearly the case with some of them, but for the most part, Trippie delivers his music as a letter to his listeners, which is why he went with the name A Love Letter to You. That December, he released an instant banger, Dark Knight Demo. The song was originally supposed to be a love song and a rage song mixed together, but Trippie decided it should be a full-on rage track. This isn't confirmed, but the demo part of the title was like a slight towards 6ix9ine's Gummo, since the two were beefing at the time. The beat was produced by C-Note, who was impressed by Trippie's punk rock type voice combined with his ability to rap. He says the beat was supposed to be what the world would sound like after World War III had just finished. The superstar feature was of course Travis Scott, and this song was the first, and so far, only time the two have released a track together. It took less than a year for Dark Knight Demo to go platinum. Just a couple months after it went platinum, Trippie Redd released his first actual studio album, Life's a Trip. Life's a Trip was the first full project that was not part of the Love Letter series, and to me, it was the most complete project he had created up to that point. This is not to say that he wasn't humble before, but in this album, it became extremely apparent and it gave the listeners an even deeper look into what actually goes on in Trippie's mind. Life's a Trip is full of very emotional songs like the opener Together and the closing song Underwater Fly Zone that are complemented beautifully by moody instrumentals. But the album also contains tracks where Trippie just sits back and spits solid bars like on Oomp's Revenge and Missing My Idols, or the upbeat bangers with Shake It Up and of course Dark Knight Demo. Then there's the handful of songs where he combines both of these styles and creates that signature Trippie sound with Wish, Forever Ever, and the huge hit Taking a Walk. On his first No Jumper interview, Trippie mentioned the fact that he doesn't identify with just rap. As long as it appeals to my ear, I'm going to do a song to it. If I could use one word to describe Life's a Trip, it would be complete. A Love Letter to You 3 was released in November of 2018, and while it did contain a few hits, the critics found it to be just another entry in an already crowded space. And at the time, I agreed with them. It just sounded like more Trippie Redd. Outside of Topanga and 1400/999 Freestyle, I really didn't care for this release, which resulted in me pushing Trippie Redd's music to the back burner for a while. But in retrospect, I and many others were probably too quick to judge this mixtape. Songs like Imani Interlude, Elevate and Motivate, and my fiance's favorite, Loyalty and Royalty, were basically Trippie opening the next door in his music. It took a bit of hindsight to realize this, but A Love Letter to You 3 wasn't all just the same old Trippie. There was some growth there, and I truly believe he used it as a stepping stone for his next entry in the Love Letter series, which would make sense. But then there was Experimentation. This was Trippie's sophomore studio album, and it came out in August of 2019. This album reinforced me putting his music on the back burner at the time. The opening song is essentially a pop song. There's of course a mix of songs that follow his usual sound, and a lot of the production comes off as stale throughout most of the album. Exclamation Point was all over the place. Even the title. It's supposed to be an homage to X's question mark album, but at the same time, Trippie says that the exclamation point stands for immortal. But then if that were the case, why not just name it Immortal, especially since there is a song titled Immortal on the album. To me, this album just seemed thrown together and made me feel confident that I wasn't missing out on anything when it comes to Trippie's music. But when all hope seemed lost, he dropped A Love Letter to You 4 in November of 2019, almost a full year since its predecessor. This was a huge breath of fresh air, and it made me completely forget about Exclamation Point. It played off of the complete elements that Life's a Trip presented, except this time around in an older, more mature manner. This was the growth I and many others have been waiting for. This is really the first album that primarily focused on love within the Love Letter series. Outside of Six Kiss, the album opens with nothing but home runs with the first 8 songs. Almost all 8 were essentially love songs, and to me it showed that Trippie had found the area that his sound was damn near perfect for. He had just gone through a breakup with Corey LeRae, which is where the title for the opener comes from, and he's able to combine his unique yelling with an acoustic guitar to make a very memorable intro. Trippie sticks with the softer vibe for a little while, but then switches up to more of what we're used to with the majority of the songs. There's plenty of features and a few aggressive songs, with the absolute banger being Death featuring DaBaby. This album will always hold a special place within me. Autumn and I were in Colorado for our last vacation before our son was born. I was in the car waiting for her to be done with her prenatal massage when I got the Spotify notification for this release. Like I said earlier, I really did not care for Trippie at that moment in time, but since I was just sitting there waiting, I decided to give it a listen. I was completely blown away that Trippie actually went in that direction, and I was very happy he did because of how good it sounded. And then fast forwarding a few months, this album was playing while our son Cleef was born. So to me, this will probably always be my favorite Trippie Redd album.
It hits different.
The day before Halloween 2020, Trippie dropped Pegasus. Similar to A Love Letter to You 4, this album featured tracks that could all fit into one of these 3 categories: love, deep, or hard. Very descriptive. Pegasus gave the love and deep songs more of an R&B feel, especially since it contains features from Chris Brown and Party Next Door. This R&B vibe gives the album just enough of a different sound to separate itself from A Love Letter to You 4 and create the mystical vibe that Trippie had hoped for. He chose to go with Pegasus as the name because he was inspired by one of his favorite bands, Deftones. They named one of their albums White Pony. Trippie's album goes through heavy ride or die vibes, which does relate to the idea of a Pegasus, the ride or die you take with you into a great mythological battle. Like with most new Trippie albums, Pegasus took a little while to grow on me, but it is a very well-rounded project. And just a few days ago, he dropped Neon Shark vs. Pegasus, which is the deluxe version of Pegasus with 14 brand new punk rock songs to start the album. All the Neon Shark songs feature the legendary Travis Barker, and to me, the two did an excellent job. Neon Shark is a great set of punk rock songs, not just a great set of punk rock songs for Trippie Redd. It brings me back to my childhood when I would listen to Good Charlotte and Linkin Park, Without You, Geronimo, and Red Sky being my favorites. Neon Shark was really supposed to be its own album, but Trippie decided to combine it with Pegasus to see which one the fans would gravitate more towards. Neon Shark vs. Pegasus, or just Pegasus on its own. Trippie has usually been very upfront with the new music he has in the works, and that's still the case with his next project, Trip at Night, which is sounding like it's going to be more of a rage album, which is something we haven't gotten from him in a very long time. Trippie Redd has one of the most fascinating bodies of work you'll ever see from an artist. At this point, it's impossible to call him a rapper. He's one of the best pioneers of the emo rap space, but now he's grown past that emo rapper label to his own realm. The ability to let his personality explode through his music is really not something many artists can pull off in today's age, but it's something he's always been able to do and will continue to do for the rest of his timeless career. If you're hearing this portion of the video, big props to you for sticking around until the end. I had a lot of fun making this video, and it gave me a nice break from the bigger project I have in the works, Head in the Clouds, and look into how rap record deals work. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, it helps my channel grow, and while you're at it, subscribe. It's free, you'll be able to see Head in the Clouds when it drops in March, in addition to all of my new videos. You can hop into my live streams, and you'll be able to vote in the polls that dictate who my future videos will be about. Thanks for all the support, I'll talk to you on the next one, peace.